Good evening. Welcome to the Canby City Council regular meeting for April 3rd, 2019. If you'd like to stand for the invocation, please do so, and we'll move into the Pledge of Allegiance. Dear Father God, thank you so much for this community. It has been a tumultuous couple of weeks here, and just ask for wisdom for everyone, that we work together and we work towards coming together and healing. I also offer up our thoughts and prayers for everyone in Wilsonville and the Vaubois neighborhood and their tragic loss a couple of days ago. Help them recover quickly. I ask these things in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda we have a couple of proclamations. So the first one is National Library Week. Whereas libraries everywhere play a vital role in supporting the quality of life in their communities, and whereas our nation's school, academic, public, and special libraries make a difference in the lives of millions of Americans today more than ever, and whereas librarians are trained professionals helping people of all ages and backgrounds find and interpret the information they need to live, learn, and work in a challenging economy, and whereas libraries serve as a crucial technology hubs for people in need of free web access, computer training, and assistance finding job resources. And whereas libraries are part of the American dream, places for opportunity, education, self-help, and lifelong learning. And whereas libraries serve as community gathering spaces, encouraging civic engagement and discourse. And whereas libraries promote early childhood education and literacy, helping parents and families prepare their children for success in school and in life. And whereas library use is up nationwide among all types of library users, continuing a decade-long trend. And whereas libraries, librarians, library workers, and supporters across America are celebrating National Library Week. Now, therefore, I, Brian Hodson, by the virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of the city of Canby, do hereby proclaim April 7th through the 13th, 2019, as National Library Week, and call upon individuals, schools, churches, and organizations and business establishments in the city of Canby to visit the library this week to take advantage of the wonderful library resources available to our library, at your library, pardon me, and you belong at the library. Given unto my hand this third day of April 2019. And Irene, I think you're here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much. Thank you. Awesome. I just wanted to make two announcements. That for National Library Week, you can get $1 off your fines for every non-perishable item you bring into the library, and also that as of April 1st, we have the new Cultural Pass Express, where you can download your passes to the various venues throughout the Portland metro area right to your mobile device. So you no longer need to come into the library to pick up the cultural passes. You can get them and download them to your device and get admittance to a lot of venues throughout the town. So thank you.
I saw that.
Thanks,
That's
Irene.
super cool.
Thank you.
Our next proclamation this evening is Grange Month. Whereas the National Grange of the Order of Patrons of Husbandry is celebrating 152 years of service to America, and the Oregon State Grange will celebrate 146 years of service at their state convention this June in Molalla, Oregon. And whereas Grange programs are family-oriented, beginning with Junior Grange for children of ages 4 through 13, for the purpose of getting children involved with their community, with agriculture, and with good citizenship. And Grange membership includes full voting rights and the right to hold office at age 14. And whereas the service through educational efforts of the Grange and its members have aided innumerable people, both in and out of the order, to reach their full potential as leaders and people. And whereas the service of nonpartisan legislative advocacy of the Grange through the unified efforts of its membership have immeasurably benefited local communities and our nation as a whole. And whereas the fellowship and family atmosphere of the Grange have served millions of Americans by strengthening the social connections through a multitude of activities, and whereas Grangers are supportive of agriculture, rural America, and American values as they form the bedrock of American society. And whereas the Grange continues to serve every American through their hometown roots. Now, therefore, I, Brian Hodson, by the virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of the city of Canby, hereby proclaim the month of April as Grange Month in the city of Canby, and do urge all of those in the Canby area to support and promote this observance. Given under my hand this third day of April 2019. I think we've got our Grange group here. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You're very welcome, sir. Thank you. All right. And she would like to say a couple things. Oh, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to kind of give an update on what the Grange has been doing in the last few years and recently. The Warner Grange here in Canby has been present since 1874, supporting the community, providing leadership opportunities to members, and advocating for rights for rural citizens for many generations. But currently, we stand firm on our motto, which is, in essentials, unity, in non-essentials, liberty, and in all things, charity. One of our main focuses is in all things charity. The Warner Grange is committed to giving back to the community. Our members are actively involved in charity inside and outside the Grange, many serving within their churches and other nonprofits. As a Grange, though, for the last 15 years, every year, we have given at least 2 Canby Elementary Schools dictionaries for every 3rd grade student. We have also supplied the Canby Center and Community Transitional School with school supplies and clothing. We help support the Clackamas County Veterans Transitional Village by installing a flagpole, assisting with the installation of a horseshoe pit so they have games to play, and helping provide monthly meals where we get to know the veterans that are placed there. The Warner Grange is open to rent for events, private parties, community education classes, and more. We also support our other nonprofit chapters by providing a free meeting space for Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, homeschool theater groups, and town hall meetings. Starting April 16th, there will even be weekly square dance lessons. But in all of that, we also host our own events. Annually, we host a benefit dinner and auction fundraiser for cuddle cots, raising awareness of pregnancy and infant loss. A cuddle cot is a refrigerated bassinet that is used when a mother has a stillborn baby. It's a self-contained apparatus that keeps the baby cool and preserves it so that way the mother and the family have all the time they need to process the course of events and grieve without fear that their baby is taken away until they're ready to say goodbye. Most hospitals do not have a cuddle cot, and they are not medically necessary. However, nurses and families are advocating for them. We, as the Warner Grange, heard that when a business entity, such as a hospital, purchased such a unit, the cost is close to $10,000, but we as a nonprofit can purchase it for only $3,000. So it is our goal as a Grange to place a cuddle cot in every hospital in the state of Oregon. Last year, we placed 7. This year, our fundraiser is on Saturday, April 13th, and we have a goal of placing 13 more. With about 100 items, a variety of gift certificates and gift baskets to auction off, and 160 spots for people to attend, I think we are able to meet and exceed that goal. If you'd like to join us, please let me know after the meeting. I will let you know how to get tickets, as they are only $20 a person, and we'd love to have you. Thank you, Mayor, for acknowledging April as Grange Month. We look forward to continuing to serve the community.
Thank you. Last one this evening is Window Safety Month. Whereas every year around the nation, 4,000 children under 10 years of age fall from residential windows, resulting in broken bones, brain injuries, and sometimes death. In Oregon, the number is 50 children per year. And whereas window fall prevention campaigns have demonstrated 66% and 83% reductions in the number of children falling from windows in the cities of Boston and Chicago. And whereas the month of April has been designated as National Window Safety Month with the goal of heightening a year-round awareness of what parent and caregivers should do to help keep their homes and families safe from the risk of window falls or injuries in the home. And whereas together with the citizens of neighboring cities, Safe Kids of Oregon, the Children's Hospital of Legacy Emmanuel, and community partners have together researched, developed, and launched a similar statewide window fall prevention program, Stop at 4, the campaign to stop window falls. And whereas the City of Canby supports the Stop at 4 program, now therefore I, Brian Hodson, by the virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of the City of Canby, do hereby proclaim the month of April as Window Safety Month in the city of Canby, and do urge all those in the Canby area to support and promote this observance. Given under my hand this third day of April 2019. And Mr. Cloutier.
You're very welcome, sir. All right, I'll talk a little bit about windows. Chief's going to bring me a window here. So Stop at 4 is a campaign, and it really, in Oregon, started in Molalla. They had a boy by the name of Parker Reck fall out of a window, and he was killed. After that, Ashley, his mom, went on a campaign and decided she wanted to do something. This really started in the training room at Molalla, and it's kind of a cool thing, and I feel honored. I took place in that first meeting and that first part that we started the Stop at 4 campaign. So some of the things you can think about your windows, if you don't need to open them, keep them closed. Keep them closed and locked if you have air conditioning and don't need the windows to be open. Teach your kids to play one step away from the window, not right up next to the wall. We always play one step away from the window. If you have furniture or anything that kids can climb on to get up to the windows, kids are curious. They're going to climb on something to look out that window. And screens will definitely keep bugs out, but they won't keep kids in. They fall out really easy. It doesn't take much to knock the screen out of a window, and that's how kids fall. They lean against that screen. So anything we can take away from being there. If you need to have your windows open for a reason, stop at 4. This is 4 inches. So this window is open 4 inches and there's a stop on it. It can't be pushed open any. Because our newer windows now are spring loaded. We push them and we don't have to push them very hard to open. If you do want to open them all the way, they do make guards that you can put on there to cover the whole window. And there's actually safety screens now that will support the pressure of a kid. But always, always make sure the window stops are able to be taken off very easily by an adult, because that's our secondary egress out of our rooms if we had an emergency and our primary egress was blocked. And if you're looking at a new home, you can get safety windows put into a new home. You pick them up and they have a click that stops at 4. It'll stop at that 4 inch. If you need any more information on that, there's a Stop at 4 website. So it is stopat4.com, and you can get window supplies and all those things from there. So thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
Thanks, sir. Next on the agenda is communications. Anything, Mr. Robinson? Okay. We'll move into citizen input and community announcements. This is an opportunity for audience members to address the City Council on items not on the agenda. Each person, I do have almost 30 cards here this evening. I will give the 3 minutes, but please stay to the 3 minutes to speak. You're first required to fill out a testimony comment card, which is the yellow ones there in the back. Please make sure that they get to Ms. Schaefer for recording. These forms, let's see. Staff and the City Council will make every effort to respond to questions raised during citizen input before tonight's meeting ends or as quickly as possible thereafter. For agenda items, please fill out a testimony comment card and the city recorder noting which item on the agenda you wish to speak on. If you wish to buy time from another person in the audience, you can buy time once this evening, just to keep us on track. So our first one, I think Marissa Yeager, was with the Grange Group, and she's already spoke. Bob Cambra. Evening, Bob. How are you, sir?
Fine. My name's Bob Cambra. I live here in Canby. After listening to some comments recently, I felt compelled to come and say something tonight. So I'm just going to read my short statement here. It says, we can allow anyone who is trying to be a productive member of our community to be minimized or marginalized. We need and we should want to make everyone feel welcome and encouraged. I am a very human man, and I will fail at times to meet that goal. But I take the responsibility to keep trying to accomplish it, and I think we all should.
Thank you, sir. Linda Tate, regarding the charter. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm actually not very good at this. I'm a shy person, and this is hard for me, but I felt like I had to be here tonight. My name is Linda Tate, and I've lived in Canby my whole life. I'm 55 years old. My family came here in 1955. And tonight, while I was standing in line, anger reared its ugly head. We were here first, it said. And this made a woman cry for saving her friend a spot in line. I'm a Christian woman. I was baptized at Bethany Evangelical Free when it was Evangelical Free. And tonight I saw an angry crowd. I saw an angry mob. An angry crowd or mob reveals what original sin looks like at its clearest. What it looks like when our selfish desires to protect ourselves at all cost, to blame others for our problems, to seek vengeance for the grudges that we carry is put out into the open. When a group of people tries to be God in God's place and exercise ultimate power and control over their world, you get these terrifying scenes. As a Christian woman, I am here to stand in front of that mob. I can't help but wonder how many of us will meet Jesus face to face, only to have him say, "I never knew you." My question tonight for the council, can you tonight or next month please provide us with documentation from Canby's charter that empowers the mayor or anyone else to refuse recognition to any specific group? And please provide a comprehensive list of all your proclamations you've given since taking office.
Thank you. Thank you, Linda. I will bring that up with our city administrator, and we'll take a look at that. Thank you. Kathleen, I'm going to read a couple at a time so everyone can prepare. Kathleen Jeske, then on deck is John Jones, and then Sarah Goodman Greiner.
Hello, thank you. My name is Kathleen Jeske, and I live here in Canby. And I watched the city council proceedings last week, and seeing that some people felt compelled to speak against a proclamation that wasn't even presented made me really sad, because they seemed to just be speaking against members of our community who had done nothing but ask to be accepted for who they are by recognizing International Transgender Visibility Day. It made me think about National Left-Handers Day, because being left-handed was once considered to be wrong and even evil, and yet similar to being transgender, it's not something people choose, it's just the way they're wired. I doubt that most people today would feel compelled to speak against left-handedness, nor would they insist that we must also recognize Right-Handers Day in order not to be discriminatory, because clearly the majority of people are right-handed, and the world is mostly designed for those of us who are. Some people seem to be as misinformed about gender and gender identity as those in the past who slapped their baby's hand when they used the left one. Not everyone is purely left-handed or right-handed. For example, I do most things right-handed, but I do a few things left-handed, and we've all known someone who's very ambidextrous. That's how many aspects of being human are, including gender and gender identity. They fall on a continuum. There's scientific evidence that where people fall on that continuum is wide, and it seems to be determined by a number of things, which include genetics, brain structure, and hormones. Even genitalia can be ambiguous. Nearly 2% of the population is born intersex with genitalia which doesn't allow them to be visually distinguishable as either male or female. Being transgender is not a choice, and it is also not a psychological disorder. However, the distress caused to transgender people by feelings of not belonging, either in their physical body or the community around them, may result in feelings that can lead to disorders like depression, which can lead to things like disengagement from school and suicide among our youth. 63% of transgender people report experiencing debilitating acts of discrimination. Why anyone would want to contribute to debilitating another human being, I just don't understand. I was a teacher here for 30 years. It was my job to ensure that every student was treated as an individual worthy of dignity and respect with no exceptions. We have a bullying problem in our schools, and sadly, the incidents that led me to come here tonight are indicative of why. International Transgender Visibility Day did not come from a need to celebrate being transgender. It came from a need to state the right to exist without persecution. So instead of acting like it's discriminatory that we don't also have a special day that says it's okay to be gender conforming and heterosexual, people should be thankful that they don't need a day like that.
Okay, I appreciate the applause and the excitement about what's being said. I'm going to ask that you roll that back, please. Okay, so we can move through the comments as best we can.
A lot of cards.
John Jones, followed by Sarah Goodman Griner, and then Julie Wills.
Good evening, Mayor, councilors, staff. My name is John H. Jones II. I live here in Canby. I am the tolerant. I am the informed. I am the accepting. I am the loving. I am a man that does not judge others by what they identify as, but by what they offer to humanity. I don't need anyone to tell me that I am not accepting. I do want those that feel the need to force their narrow-mindedness on me to see how limiting they are. I will not be told that I am transphobic, homophobic, Islamophobic, or any other phobic that is popular to the independent thinkers right now. I shave my head, not because I'm a racist, because I'm follically challenged. I have been accused by people in this very room of being racist for no other reason than my political beliefs. I spent 9 years defending this country, and I took an oath that I never rescinded, and I will defend every person in this country to the day I die to make sure they are free. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah, I've asked, okay? Sarah Goodman Griner, Julie Wills, and then Kevin Sterrett.
I listened to the last council meeting on YouTube. I saw it on YouTube, and in reading about it, I've heard this issue referred to as divisive. I think that's the first mistake. I think that's the first problem, because it sets us up to see us as different to begin with, to see us as us and them, to see us as strangers. And it allows us to make derogatory and prejudicial comments against one another and claim that it's a political issue. In a town that claims to be Christian, so Christian and open and accepting, if we're going to say that trans is different and other and strangers, do not forget to entertain strangers. The transgender members of our community don't have anything wrong with them. It's not a disability. It's not an illness. They don't choose to be transgender any more than I choose to wear my sunglasses. I have epilepsy. There's nothing wrong. And I was disappointed to hear the members of my community speak with such hate and call it concern. And it is a matter of saving lives when we acknowledge the basic dignity of our community members. Lives will be saved. Window safety saves lives. Acknowledging the dignity of transgender individuals could save lives as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Julie Wills, Kevin Sterrett, and then Nicholas Wills.
I'd like to surrender my time to Julie Wills. I'm Nicholas Wills.
Okay.
I'd like to use my time second also.
Mix enough.
Yeah, you want to do the ones. Thank you.
Mayor Hodson says that he believes Canby is a safe and welcoming city to all. I'm here to tell you that transgender families do not agree. We do not feel safe, and we have certainly not been made to feel welcome. My first interaction with the Canby Police Department was about my family's safety. At the time, I had asked for some help on my personal blog in acquiring my child some new clothing to reflect their gender identity. I quickly found out that there was a planned attack in the works from people on 4chan directed at the LGBTQ community on Tumblr. We quickly began to live in fear. We became a hashtag, literally. It was spread on Twitter, Reddit, Tumblr, and Facebook. People flooded child services with reports of child abuse by the thousands, claiming that the only reason a child could be transgender is if they were being sexually abused. My inbox overflowed with people wishing I would get raped or suffer some other kind of violence. My accounts were hacked, as were those of family members and friends. They took screenshots of my family photos and found an address to share, though thankfully we had just moved a few months before. People talked about kidnapping my child. Some people called on others that might live in our area to murder me and my husband. Even if you don't agree with our child's gender identity, there were those who wanted to murder them. People who said they would rape other children, that they were a perversion of God and the spawn of Satan. They said that they didn't deserve to live. I had just enrolled them in preschool. Even if you don't agree, the mayor wants to tell me that my family is safe here. Do you know what the Canby police did when I sobbed about how people wanted to murder my baby? First, they told me it was my fault. Then they told me they weren't going to do anything about it. Don't even get me started on what it takes to get a book read in this town. You're all aware of the concerns and exclusion of George, but even trying to let my kid read a book that simply explains their existence to their class was like honking at one of the town turkeys. This book had no mention of the word transgender in it, nothing on pronouns, no body dysphoria, no dramatic social transition. The primary message simply being that no matter who they are valid. It's a story where the teacher stops bullying by reminding the other kids that gender doesn't matter. Children can play how they want, they can look how they want, and they can dress how they want. The superintendent stated that it couldn't be read and it was inappropriate. In the end, he confessed he hadn't even read a single page. I wish that book could have made a difference. My kid still deals with bullying. Classmates argue about what gender they are. They were given noise-canceling headphones to deal with other kids on the bus taunting them with songs. Some tell them to their face that if they believe they're trans, then they must not exist at all. I can't count how many times that they have gotten in trouble for arguing about their gender identity. But if somebody called your son a girl or told them that they weren't real, would you really expect them to stay silent? A lot of people in Canby keep saying that they don't care that people are trans, but that we need to stop talking about it. I had somebody tell me that we wouldn't be discriminated against if we'd, quote, just stop shining a spotlight on it. You know what topic they were replying to? It was when I posted about how my child was suicidal at the age of 7. People laughed. I called for people to care about all suicidal children, no matter their gender, and they thought the idea of a little kid wanting to die was funny. Others came to their defense, saying that we weren't taken seriously because my child is transgender, as though that were some sort of excuse. Since talking about this, I've had a person tell a local Facebook page with 18,000 people the full legal name of my child. This person's referenced photographs I have on my profile that are set to friends only. I don't know who she is, but my kid knows her by name. They say she has spoken to them in our apartment complex many times. People keep telling me to stop arguing with the hatred, that everybody is entitled to their own opinion, so I simply blocked her. After that, I received messages from concerned citizens because she posted again, trying to draw attention to my family after claiming that I forced my child to be transgender when they were 2 months old. This person isn't the only one I've blocked who has gone on to post about us anyway. They're trying to make us the target of hatred. People like this don't make me feel welcome, and I don't know that I'll ever feel safe letting my child play outside in our apartment complex again. I've heard people here in Canby say that the trans community isn't discriminated against, that they don't believe in trans rights because we're already treated equally. People drove by the event for Alex Gino's book to take our photos, film us, and yell obscenities. Does that sound like we're treated equally? Does any of this sound like we're safe? Mr. Mayor, City Council, people of Canby, we need your help. An International Day of Transgender Visibility can't fix anything, but it would have been a good start. Because if transgender people aren't visible, then our persecution becomes invisible. Just like International Women's Day, Black History Month, and other things like it, it could have helped people understand our plight. Just like the rest of you, I don't want to have to talk politics. But this isn't politics. This is a fight for our lives, one that if people have told us to our face doesn't exist. I'm here to tell you that the fight is real, and we're battling it every day. There have been a lot of people arguing against this who are adamant that they don't hate us. But Charles M. Blow said, one doesn't have to operate with great malice to do great harm. The absence of empathy and understanding are sufficient. If there can be proclamations for everything else, then we can have transgender visibility. You can honor our humanity.
Thank you, Julie. Kevin Starrett, and then Amira Stanley, and then Craig Morris.
Members of the council, we've heard people come here and say that there was an angry mob that met them. I didn't see an angry mob when I got here. I didn't see any angry people here. And we're talking about tolerance, and we're talking about accepting people, and we're talking about how terrible it is for trans people. If somebody wants to raise their child as a sex that they're not, I'm for parents' rights. We have a very practical problem here. And the practical problem is, what about the children who are not trans? What about the 12-year-old girl who is forced to shower with a 14-year-old boy? What about the children who have no issues about their sexuality? Do they have any rights? If a 14-year-old boy identifies as a 12-year-old girl and demands to be able to use her locker room and showers, do we have to do that? Apparently we do. What if a 50-year-old man identifies as a 14-year-old boy who identifies as a 12-year-old girl? Are the children who are not transsexual, do they have any protections? Do they have protections in bathrooms? Do they have protections in locker rooms? Do they have protections in showers? Do they have the protections at the Canby pool? This is not about tolerance, all right? If a 50-year-old man can shower with your 12-year-old daughter, that is not tolerance, that is child abuse. And that is something we seriously need to address. Thank you.
Amira Stanley, Craig Morris, and then Crystal Perkins.
Hi, my name is Amira Stanley. I have lived in Canby for 2 years in August. I help facilitate the Canby P flag, and I'm also on the volunteer committee for an organization called The Living Room that provides supports for the LGBTQ youth in Clackamas County, ages 14 to 21. I'm 40 years old, and I am married to a handsome, amazing soul transgender man. I am not here with anger in my heart towards anyone. I believe that with open hearts and minds, through education and awareness, people who don't understand why transgender visibility is important can, in fact, have a change of heart. I come from a family who told me when I came out at 18 years old that I would never be accepted for dating women, to today having a family that I can call allies of the LGBTQ community. Watching the taping from the last city council meeting, I noticed 2 females that spoke in regard to this matter, and hearing the tone in their voices, as condescending as they were, as if they were better than others, made me think, who do they know in their life right now that's watching this and thinking to themselves, I now know I could never feel safe to speak to them about who I really am. I don't point this out to make anybody feel bad or for the 2 individuals to be attacked. I say this to bring awareness. You never know who is suffering silently, struggling inside because they feel they have no one to talk to. Don't be that person. In May of this year, my husband and I will celebrate our 6th wedding anniversary. Before my husband began his transition last year, he overheard me talking on the phone with my sister, saying, I feel like I'm more pansexual than lesbian or bisexual because it's about the person's heart and our connection. Shortly after hanging up the phone, my husband said to me with fear and uncertainty in his eyes, so if I was transgender, you'd still be with me? I was in shock because I had no idea that this was even a thought. I had no idea that my man was suffering silently about his gender identity. Now looking back, I can see the signs that were always there. It is easy to say that we welcome all. It's much harder. It takes courage and vulnerability to go a step further. I challenge you all to get to know us. Talk to us. We are here in Canby and we aren't going away. Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Hello, I'm Craig Morris.
Hang on, hang on.
Oh.
Craig, then Crystal Perkins, and then Eric Goodman. Go ahead, sir.
Okay. First of all, I'd like to thank you, Mayor, for everything you've done for the city and how gracefully you've handled all of this, I'm just going to call it craziness that's gone on, and the personal attacks you've had over the last couple of weeks, not only on your emails, but on social media and everything else. And I just want to thank you because it does take a big man to stand up there and take this abuse day in and day out. Second of all, I wanted to thank you for bringing to light the Grange. I had no idea they did so much for the community and the state and for families that are grieving after the loss of their child. So I want to thank the City Council and whoever approved that, and would like to appreciate that. Lastly, I didn't want to bring this up, but my family does have a child that was forced into the trans community at 2 to 3 years old while he was in foster care. My brother, who then adopted that child out of inner city Detroit, has spent the many years, and this child is now 18 years old, and is still struggling with the abuse that took place while he was forced by a foster parent to be a girl when he was clearly a boy. So when we say this doesn't hurt the children, when we say this is the children's choice, there's article after article and there's proof after proof that there are adults that are putting their own personal opinions on these children, and it does make an effect on these kids for life. So with that, I will leave it. So everybody doesn't know who anybody is until you really get to sit down and talk to them, and I agree with that. And I would have a beer with anybody in here at any time, and I don't have hate for anybody, but I don't celebrate what I know is wrong. Thank you.
Thanks, Craig. Crystal Perkins, Eric Goodman, and then Catherine Christensen. Ms. Perkins, your address was left off the card. Would you mind stating it for the record?
I'm actually a resident in Vancouver, Washington. I'm here on behalf of TLR, the Living Room Youth Organization. We do help serve youth here in Clackamas County. And I'm actually just here to read their statements. They didn't feel comfortable to appear here today. So one of the questions is, how have you been impacted by current events in Canby? Not very, but it's impacted others. Yes. Yes, I don't feel safe after the backlash that the proclamation request received. Just disappointed with how the mayor has handled it. I am shocked to learn that my community is so ignorant. It makes me fearful for the safety of my friends and peers. I am transgender, and this has put a great deal of stress on my life. I'm worried to come out to any extent now because of the conflict. I don't know if my own town is safe anymore, and that scares me. I tend to mentally seclude myself from everything so I don't feel impacted. As someone who doesn't live in Canby but does frequent it since I'm a student at CHS, I feel like it should have in some way. All I can say is I'm pissed that people would go out of their way to say things like that and be such a-holes. I hate people like that. I despise people like that. That hate is probably the easiest of my hate to get rid of, though, since it's a matter of the individual bettering themselves and proving it. Other hate, I feel slightly less safe in Canby and the surrounding areas due to the disgusting misrepresentation and aggressive language towards minorities such as myself and those I am close to. Incidences such as these make me lose a great amount of trust in those in power and law enforcement associated with them. I no longer trust law enforcement in Canby to treat me fairly and justly in the event that I find myself dealing with them because I am transgender and homosexual, nor do I trust the community to support me and those in the transgender community. What words or thoughts would you like to share with the mayor? It's not right to decline something that can bring such joy. Before you deny something like that, realize that the impact that it would have on those who'd be affected by your actions. Not celebrating or even mentioning Trans Visibility Day would symbolize that you don't like or downright hate the LGBT community, making you seem like a bigot. You are so close-minded. You made people afraid to live here. You're the mayor. You should do what's best for the community. And this ain't it. Don't close opportunities for people based on your own ignorance. Recognize the privilege you have as a cis straight man and work to destroy that privilege. That's how this town should be run. Promote equality and love for everyone, not just the people you cater to. I hope that you do not deny what the LGBTQ community deserves because of your religion and beliefs. How many trans individuals have you met? How many do you have close personal connections with? I know quite a few, so they are not so rare in our town. I do have a printout from these students. Is it okay if I give it to you?
That would be great. Thank you.
Hi.
Yes, Eric, and then followed by Catherine, and then Sarah Rodriguez.
So my name is Eric Goodman. You heard my wife speaking a few minutes ago. I feel very conflicted about this because when I heard her speak, I felt very moved by her compassion for everybody. And when I've heard some of the other people up here speaking, I didn't feel the same. When I drive around town, I see a lot of signs saying you're worth it, you're not alone. And I assume these signs are meant to speak for everybody, not just straight people. A Trans Recognition Day could save people's lives. And speaking from a place of white male privilege, I don't think there's going to be straight white men killing themselves because trans people are recognized. So as Christians and human beings, I think we should examine our morals, embrace diversity, and reject hatred and prejudice. Embrace everybody in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Catherine Christensen, Sarah Rodriguez, and then, is it Abel Rowe? Thank you.
Mayor Hodgson, I am here just to speak to you directly this evening. I know over the last couple of weeks you have just been through the ringer. People have told lies about you. They have just said horrible, awful things about you that I know are not true. And I just want you to know that you have my full support for the decision that you made. And if people could see what I saw earlier this afternoon when I happened to pop in here, you sitting here with a bunch of little Cub Scouts, talking to them and giving them your time, shows what an amazing person you really are. You are caring. You are out there for every community function. And I just want you to know that you have my support, and I care about you and your family very much.
Thank you, Catherine. Appreciate that. Sarah Rodriguez, and then Abel Rowe, and then Brad Clark after that. Hi,
Hello. I am simply here just to show support for Transgender Visibility Day, and I understand that the proclamation was never actually submitted, or is that correct?
No. The request was put in to be read at our last meeting.
And it was read, or it was not read?
It was not.
Okay. So I think that that's really unfortunate. I think that there's a lot of people that talk about being Christians and showing Christianity or Christian love, and they are not being open-minded and loving people, accepting them for who they are. So that's really all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
I do have a question. I'd like to know what your plans are in maybe bridging the gap or bringing this community back together, because there's been a clear divide, a lot of anger from both sides. And some people might think that a mob doesn't, a mob doesn't necessarily look like angry people with pitchforks, but you can certainly feel a mob when it's there. And with all the conflict going on, what do you intend to do to bridge that or build it?
No, it's a fair question. And so a couple of the comments made here tonight that concern the city. We'll be having a conversation with our city administrator and our police chief about that in terms of everything that's transpired. I have had actually a couple.
I'm so sorry, but before my time's up, I just want to, and then can you answer, because I'm limited?
Sure.
Are you willing to make some sort of proclamation one way or the other? Once you work with the people that you want to meet with and decide how to bring this community together, will there be a proclamation that brings us together?
That I can't answer right now. I don't know what my conversations are going to look like,
Okay.
Coming out of this meeting tonight. So I'm not going to answer that right now.
Okay.
My piece with, as I was stating, was there's been a number of people in our community that have reached out to me that have offered and are willing to sit down and talk with me. And I'm looking forward to those conversations. So that's the first piece that I'm looking at doing. There's been a number of people through social media that have contacted me. So through a lot of the comments that have been made about my stance or what that may be, there has been gratefully a few people that are willing to sit down and have some conversation with me about this. So as those get scheduled, as best I can, I will be meeting with people from a couple of organizations here in our city. I've been invited down to an organization down at Willamette University, which I will take them up on. So there's a couple of things that I myself am doing just as in terms of trying to understand the situation and educate myself in that regards. I've had articles shared with me, both sides of the issue, so I truly believe that those are the pieces that need to be taken. And there is a number of people here that are probably learning quite a bit this evening, on the issue. And what has transpired has not been, in our community, has been, it's been sad. So that's the best. If you have other ideas, please, email me and let me know. If anybody else has ideas, please let me know.
Thank you.
Thank
I'll
you.
look forward to seeing some progress.
Thank you. Sorry, is it Abel Rowe? And then Brad Clark, and then Kay Hutchinson. Hello.
It's nice to meet you all. Hello, my name is Abel Dowell Rowe. I'm 20, and my pronouns are they, them. I grew up and attended elementary, middle, and part of high school here in Canby, and recently moved back. Growing up in Canby as a young person who was trying to find themselves, I felt extremely alone. I felt unseen in our school systems that perpetuated gender stereotypes and heteronormativity, and I felt alone every day, but especially so when I was reminded by health classes, by other students, and our community that cisgender and straight were the only normal ways of existing. I was deeply disappointed by our council's decision to reject the proclamation of transgender visibility, and I want to speak about the importance of singling out a specific group, even though it may not seem fair to others. It is no secret that our young people in Canby struggle with mental health and suicide, and to me, that is a large warning sign that people are not receiving the support and love that they deserve in this community. It may not be intentional, but it does have serious impacts. Transgender people are particularly vulnerable to suicidal thoughts, depression, and anxiety, not only because of the dysphoria that they have to deal with, but also the invalidation and rejection from people around them. 47% of transgender people will attempt suicide in their lifetime. Our transgender citizens are in need of our love and support, not simply because it's nice, but because a supportive environment can help prevent them from taking their lives. In 2015, when I was 15 years old, I attempted suicide. I felt ashamed and alone, and I felt I had no other option despite coming from a very loving family. At that point, I was prepared to die more than I was to come out of the closet. Obviously, I did not die, but I did separate myself from the Canby community, and I felt like I had no other option to keep myself safe than to switch high schools. I found a community of my own after transferring high schools and at college where I could come out and explore who I was. When I had to move back to Canby this summer, I promised myself that I would do everything in my power to change the community so that our young queer folks would never feel as trapped and as powerless as I did. I am now the secretary of Canby PFLAG, and I also help out at our local Safe Club. The Day of Transgender Visibility does single out a specific group, but it does so to bring awareness, support, and love to those who desperately need it. As a community, it is our responsibility to come together, to educate one another, and to support everyone in our town regardless of their gender, sexual orientation, religion, disability, race, or ethnicity. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Brad Clark, Kay Hutchinson, Karen Phillips.
Good evening. Hello, Mayor and Council and City of Canby. It is an honor and privilege to be here tonight to get to have a few minutes to speak my mind as well as everybody else getting to do so. And I will start by saying thank you for the declaration for Library Week and librarians, as that is what I find myself doing nowadays in my life. I came to speak to about the comments that were made at the end of the last council meeting, and I'm here because I just was not represented. And I felt that the people that were speaking were trying to say that their voices were the only one in Canby. Now, clearly tonight, we've all seen that that's not true. And I have no idea what other craziness and things have been going on throughout the week. I haven't been tuned into all that. I simply saw what had happened last time and wanted my voice to be heard too. As a person who was a pastor for a large portion of his life and conservative in every possible way, I continued to question and investigate and learn, and ultimately change my mind on my views on transgender, homosexuality, the whole LGBT community. As a person who still has an opportunity to work with teenagers and has his entire life, and a person who is trained and weekly communicates with people who are suicidal. I volunteer for a crisis line. It made me very sad that I was not represented by the council or by anyone's voice last time. Now, it's funny, my initial reaction was, I don't fault the mayor, I don't fault the council. This is clearly a hot button item, and to try and stay out of it and not create conflict, I can definitely tell would probably be a good idea, but clearly it's something that needed to be addressed in our community. And so, that being said, I appreciate the time to be represented tonight. And I feel that the wrong decision was made, but I still appreciate all of what you guys do and how hard it is, the position that you're all in. And I appreciate that we have a very diverse community of all kinds, from conservative to liberal and whatever other kinds of labels you want to put on it. Every day when I send my kids off to school, I tell them to learn lots, do their best, and to be good. So I hope that we can all try and do that. Thank you.
Thanks, Brad. Kay Hutchinson, Karen Phillips, and then Kristen Morris.
Hi. I'm Kay Hutchinson. I'm 16 years old. I go to high school here. I also, as many have tonight, came to talk about the Transgender Visibility Day. I know you might, like many people here, might not want to hear what I have to say, but it is so deeply important after everything I've already heard tonight about children being discriminated against as early as preschool. It is horrible. And please, before I start on my originally planned speech, I am begging parents everywhere, just if your child tells you how they feel about who they are, please be as supportive as you can, because it is already so hard for anyone in this community. I have so many friends that were terrified to come out to their parents and still are, and especially after this the denial of the proclamation, just people in our community are terrified now. I moved here when I was 4 years old, and I came out when I was in 8th grade as a lesbian, and there's probably people here thinking, oh, a queer teenager, wow, wonder what she has to say. But our trans and LGBT collection in this town is really not as big as some of us would hope. But I really would just like everyone to realize, like LGBT or not, that everyone's human. Everyone deserves to love, to be loved, to love themselves, to be who they are and not be afraid of being themselves. And everyone deserves to live in a community that accepts them. There's a saying that some people see the world through rose-tinted glasses, which basically means people see the world how they want to see it. And with the recent backlash from the community, I feel that for many of these people, these glasses have been ripped off, and they are now seeing the world filled with these people that they don't support or they never even knew were here. And I'd just like everyone to be recognized as human. Everyone's a person. No one deserves to be discriminated against. Racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, all of that mess. No one deserves that. Thank you.
I agree. Thank you, Kay. Karen Phillips, Kristen Morris, and then, sorry, it's Diana Saracen, I believe.
Okay. Hi, Mayor Hodson. I just wanted to, I truly believe that you are a good person and a good mayor, and that's great. But I was noticing that you had a tough week last week, and I mean, a lot of people did. You were beat up by some of the citizens in your town, and I think that made you feel uncomfortable, and, you know, whatever happened, I mean, how people feel when they're being questioned and beat up upon and stuff. But on Thursday, the 28th, I opened my Facebook and found many posts that you had shared. You were thanking people for their kind words for your role as mayor. You were thanking people for their affirmation of you. You were thanking people for their validation after being beat up, even though you are a good person. And it just, so obviously those notes of affirmation were important to you. You needed them. And as a human being, we all need them. And then later there was a post that says, keep those positive reviews coming. I really appreciate them. I just found it interesting that you were asking for affirmation, that you were asking for validation after the tough week you had. Because I think there was other people that were asking for the same thing. Anyway, so I just wanted to say that, you know, you weren't the only one that was beat up last week. There was a lot of, we're all human. We all need validation. We all need affirmation. And I just took note that you received that, and then you also asked for that. And it was appreciated. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Karen. Appreciate that. Kristen Morris, Diana Saracen, and then Mercedes Roden-Feely.
In listening to the comments this evening, one thing that strikes me is I feel compassion for both sides. I'm hearing it from one side, and the empathy in me, I'm wanting to understand more where they're coming from, but then I also understand the other side who's been labeled bigots and that they're haters and whatever other things have been coming across. I know I've known Mayor Hodson for I don't even know how many years, and I know you to be a man of integrity, upstanding. You've always reached out to literally everyone, and that's one of the reasons why I've always supported you, and I still support you, and I support the decision that you made, even though I do have empathy for both sides. I think one of the main reasons why I support what you did is the bandwidth alone that this has taken for everybody in this community. This has become the center focus when, I'm sorry, there are so many other things that need to be addressed and going on. That's not to diminish the other side. But I'm just saying, I mean, 2 weeks of this, it's been a lot, and it's been trying on both sides. I understand the fight for inclusion. I have a son with special needs. I completely understand that. My big battle, though, is to make him included, not to make him stand out or be the special one that we all have to tiptoe around. I just want him to be one of the other kids in class. And so I understand the inclusion part, but I also, I don't need to make that the focus of who I am. I don't want to make it the focus of what our city council is addressing. We have so many other things that also need to be looked at. So if we could kind of come to a place of peace with this,
That's what I would love to see as a citizen. But I do thank you, I support you, and I appreciate you.
Thanks, Kristen. Diane Saracen and Mercedes Roden-Feely, and then Joel Ekdahl.
Mr. Mayor, council people, citizens of Canby, I'm coming to you as an outsider. I don't live in the town, so I'm not part of your voting block. You don't have to listen to what I'm going to say, but I'm going to tell you right now, the eyes of the world are on you. Your meeting last time blew up. Not only did it blow up, it blew up spectacularly. People around the world are looking at what happened. And those of us who've grown up listening to things like LGBTQ, oh, that's just a funny way to spell degenerate, we're hearing that from members of your own city. I don't care what people think of me or who they think I am. It's not my place to worry about them. It is my place to worry about people like my family, like my nibblings, like my son's girlfriend. These are all people who are transgender. They're also all under the age of 21. Transgendered people have a high rate of suicide, and the fact that they're hearing from your community that people don't see anything wrong with them as long as they don't flaunt it. They're not trying to flaunt it. They're trying to be human beings. These are trying to be who they are, who they feel they are, who they have been for years. I ask you, if you look in the mirror in the morning, do you see somebody who you aren't? Because a lot of these kids do. They see a body that does not work with their brain chemistry, because it is a neurological thing. Female brains and male brains are wired differently, and you can have that cross where there is people who have a male body and a female brain. It happens. It's life. But the fact that your community has been bickering back and forth and saying things such as the gentleman who said that, what if a 52-year-old man wants to be a 14-year-old boy who thinks he's a 12-year-old girl? There are precautions in place for that. People will not, okay, so the kids will go through to school and they seem to be segregated anyways because of fear. And that's all I'm seeing. And unfortunately, that fear is going to backlash and affect the city's bottom dollar, because as soon as people found out what was going on, I had several people who said, oh, well, we were looking at Canby. We're not going to move there anymore. We're not going to buy that property. We're not going to go buy those acres. Think about it.
Thank you. Mercedes Roden-Feely, and then Joel Ekdahl.
Good evening. I am a member of the Aurora City Council. I'm not speaking for the City of Aurora tonight, but I wanted to say that I know what it's like to sit in your shoes and to have to make decisions, and for people to lose the ability to engage in civil discourse. But what we're seeing here is people are being made to feel unsafe because of the positions that they have taken. A mother is worried about the safety of her daughter. Children have been made to bear witness to the public degradation of their parents. When we degrade one person and make them feel unsafe, we degrade our entire community. We dissuade public service. We drive away much-needed volunteers. We drive away talent. And we preclude civil discourse. And we threaten democracy. I've been thinking a lot about Robert Kennedy these days and missed opportunities, and there was an opportunity missed here. I'm going to call on some of Robert Kennedy and say, you know, there are people in every time and every land who want to stop history in its tracks. They fear the future, mistrust the present, and invoke the security of a comfortable past, which in fact never existed. A group of people came to you and asked you to see them. They told you they felt invisible. We focused on our disagreements with their lifestyle. We lost sight of our common humanity. We forgot to feel what it's like to be invisible, unseen, unheard, marginalized, belittled, less than. Councillor Spoon saw because she recognized it is the right thing to do. Each time a person stands up for an ideal and acts to improve the lot of others or strikes out against injustice, she sends forth a tiny ripple of hope. I hope that everybody behind me and everybody in front of me will carry that ripple of hope forward tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Joel Ekdahl, Alicia Owens, and Salem Brown.
Mayor, I want to concede my time to the next speaker, which should be Alicia Owens, I believe.
And you are?
Joel Ekdahl.
Yes, Alicia Owens is next. Okay.
Give me a second here to get my phone unlocked. I apologize. Greetings, everyone. Good evening. I have some statements here from youth. So I sit on the board of directors for an organization called The Living Room. We are a nonprofit here in Clackamas County that serves LGBTQ youth in the community. We provide safe spaces, we provide school support, we provide GSA support, anything that we can do to let these youth know that they matter and that they are seen and that they are safe and that there are adults in this community who value them. There's a lot of emotions in this room tonight, and I think that we are all feeling the effects of that. There are youth who live in this community, but have grown up in this community, that did not feel safe walking in these doors tonight. That's why I'm here, to read a statement. I hope that it is heard by everyone in this room. This is from a youth that loves this community and still doesn't feel safe being here tonight. So I'm going to relay their words and elevate their words over my own. For the record, I am a lifetime Clackamas County resident. I own property in Clackamas County, and I am proud to live here. But we do have a long way to go, as evidenced by the events that took place at your city council meeting last week, some things that have been said online, some things that have been going on in your school district. So I'm going to go ahead and just read a statement from a Canby student. If Trans Day of Visibility is discriminatory, as Mayor Hodgson claims it is, then so are Mother's Day, Father's Day, Veterans Day, and all the other countless American holidays that recognize people who hold certain occupations. It is not abnormal for a holiday to single out and celebrate people of a certain group. That's what many holidays are meant to do. Trans Day of Visibility isn't meant to put transgender people up on a pedestal or claim that they are in any way better than anyone else. It's a day simply meant to recognize our struggles, celebrate our journeys and accomplishments, and acknowledge our existence. As a young trans individual, seeing all of this play out here in my community is breaking my heart. It hurts to see several prominent Canby residents openly speaking about their distaste for trans individuals, to see people in my community openly call other people like me perverts and abominations, as well as other slurs. I just want to live my life in peace without people attacking my very existence at every turn. Is that too much for me to ask from my community? Many residents call Canby a welcoming and open-minded place, and in some ways it certainly is. However, I know from firsthand painful experience that many LGBT individuals, especially the youth, do not feel welcome here and regularly experience discrimination, harassment, and even violence. Having a day of recognition is a first step towards showing that Canby is indeed committed to being safe and welcoming to all of its residents. Now here is my plea. Canby, I love you. I grew up here. I want to stay here. I love driving through these roads, and I love walking down these streets, and I love living in a relatively small, tight-knit community. All I want is for the city and its community to show me that same love and acceptance. Is that really so much for me to ask? That's a question y'all have to answer, I think. And I will say this directly to the mayor and to the rest of you that are elected officials. One of the basic tenets of holding an elected position is that you represent all of your constituents and all of your residents, not just those that you deem to be worthy of your attention. That's all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Salem Brown and then Martin Lackner.
Hi. I was nervous to come up tonight, but I decided to, after hearing about concerns for cisgender or non-transgender children, which stems from a lack of knowing what we really want. I can understand why someone might be worried about something seemingly new or different and not know how it might affect their current way of life. But this is not solved by suppressing and dismissing the existence and concerns of trans children. It's solved by learning of our actual goals. As someone who attended Canby High School for all 4 years of my high school education and graduated June of last year, I can tell you firsthand that gender-neutral bathrooms and even a small gender-neutral locker room, I believe for those with handicaps, handicapped people, already exist and are available with a key with approval. Trans people do not want to participate in predatory behavior. We simply want to exist in peace and safety. Forcing trans women to enter the men's restroom also puts them in danger. Accommodating for our safety does not take away from the safety of others. Recognizing the existence and right to safety of trans individuals is not a political statement. It is just, like I said, simply acknowledging our existence and right to safety along with all other members of this community. We have always existed and we will continue to exist. We only ask that that existence be acknowledged and valued. Thank you.
Thank you. Martin Lackner.
I'm Martin Lackner, Canby, Oregon. I've been coming into this city council chambers for nearly a decade now. While I'm not here on official capacity tonight, you pretty much all know who I am. This all came as a surprise to many of us, basically like a lot of people through social media. One day my phone blew up. I've got a dozen veterans here with me tonight, many of which are Vietnam veterans. Part of the reason it came to our attention was because there were parallels made in the media from an unknown source that was quoted that this fight was similar to that of the Vietnam veterans getting recognition for their service. I would urge whoever did that to refrain from doing that in the future. There is no civilian living within the borders of this country who has ever experienced any kind of fight that comes close to combat. And you never will, and I hope you never will, at least not in the last 150 years. Okay? We're not here to pick a side. We're here because we all took an oath, much as you did, to defend the Constitution. And that's what we're here for. Some people tonight have said that they're not safe. They don't feel safe. Well, I would argue that you're in one of the safest places in this town right now, because there's a dozen combat veterans in here and at least one of Canby's finest behind me. So I would say you're pretty safe right now. You all were elected by the citizens of this community to represent this community. What I would ask you to remember to do is to do this in an idea that represents the values of Canby as a whole. Establish a productive dialogue amongst each other. We trust all of you sitting up here to do this job. That's why you were elected. We didn't even need to be drug into this. None of us did. But I will tell you this. I saw a couple of things directed at the mayor Things like blow up his email, posting his personal information online, asking people to drive by his house, do things like this, stalk his online persona, and to bring an army, okay? Terrorists do this stuff, okay? We're not terrorists, we're Americans. We fight terrorists, and we're better than this, okay? So I urge everyone in this room, regardless of what side you're on, to remember that men and women lost their lives to give you the right and the freedom to work together, because that's what we're known for, and that's why America is the beacon of hope in this world. Thank you.
Thanks, Martin. That concludes the yellow cards that I have here. I want to thank everyone very much for being here this evening and speaking and letting us know what's been on your minds the last couple of weeks. I do see us as a welcoming community. This is a situation that has become an unfortunate argument and fight in the halls in our city hall, on social media, on emails, etc. I'm going through the comments here tonight, and I'm glad the question was asked of like what next? What do we do? It is a dialogue that needs to occur. Do we have some misunderstandings and just lack of knowledge? Absolutely there is. And as I said, I'm prepared to make those steps. We've got issues at our school, by the sounds of it. We've got issues in our streets of our town. That's disheartening to hear. There have been hurtful things said, typed, written these last 2 weeks about, I think, probably many of you in this room. It's appalling. We talked about businesses being boycotted, and we're talking about people being singled out in a hateful way. That's not me. That's not how I operate. I never have. I don't see, I don't have all the answers. I really don't. I had a script here, but I'm totally going off of it, so pardon my meandering. Yeah, Martin, I wasn't aware of some of those things you said, so, but that's, I think, to the point that Ms. Phillips, that you were making regarding the affirmation pieces and those kinds of things, and we just want to feel validated and whatnot. Absolutely. And that's for everyone. And I will say for me, not even as the mayor, as a person, I am here to talk to. I want to help. I want to see something different occur than what has occurred the last 2 weeks. It's not easy. It's not gonna be easy. Some pieces and allegations have been made and things that I need to look into with our city manager and our police chief. I definitely, absolutely need to look into that. I want to have conversation with Superintendent Goodall to figure out what is going on in the schools and how can we work together to fix or address those situations. Most of this stuff transpired over spring break, and so, and I had to sit my freshman daughter down and explain to her what was going on because of the things that were being said. And again, there's a lot of really great things here, and Karen Phillips, your comments, I think when I have to sit there and I have to explain to my daughter that I don't know what you're walking into on Monday coming out of spring break. I don't know what's going to be said to you. I don't know if anything's going to be said to you. But you need to if something does occur, you need to find your friends. You need to go and find an administrator or somebody that can help alleviate the situation. And hearing the productive emails that I did get and the comments made here today, I only get, I think, a small fathom or a small inkling of what I think some of the youth in our community are going through. I have to have that conversation with my daughter. How many different conversations have to be had with your sons and daughters? You know, it's a very, so I'm hopeful that moving forward that the dialogue can occur. I am open for the dialogue. I enjoy coffee. I will have coffees till whenever. I will go where I need to go because it's a situation that we need to look at and address as an entire community. Because you know what, we are a community. We are all individuals that make up our great community. And it's been very evident how easy it is to sit behind a screen and a keyboard and just go off. And I only catch an inkling of it. Man, I can't imagine what you've gone through. I really can't. I'm sorry for that. It's a tremendous amount of learning. There's a tremendous amount of heartache over the last couple of weeks. Like I said, will it get better? I do not know. I'm hopeful that it will. Will it take time? Absolutely. But I'm willing to do the work if some of you are willing to do the work with me and have the conversations with me. But we can't do it through snarkiness and anger behind a keyboard and screen. I literally, of the hundreds of comments and emails and whatnot, 3 people actually said, Mr. Mayor, I would love to sit down with you and have a conversation. 3 out of hundreds of messages and postings and emails that I received. Well, I look forward to having those conversations with those 3 people, and I hope that tomorrow I have 3 more emails that say, Mr. Mayor, I'd love to sit down and talk to you. Or Mr. Mayor, come join us in our organization and come to a meeting and see what's going on. Hear from these individuals outside of this magnifying glass that we are in right now. Because that, to me, is where the real work begins. And we do address the humanity. The city councilor from Aurora talked about the humanity of it all. That's where it begins. It's unfortunate, and I'm very sorry to everyone in our community that this has gotten to be as ugly as it has. Some people really have been hurt these last 2 weeks. So I thank you all very much for being here and for letting your comments be known. You're always welcome in here. You are always welcome to grab me and talk to me, tell me what your concerns are. I may not be able to fix it right then and there, but gosh darn it, I will certainly do my best as the mayor and leader of the city to try to do that. Oh. I wasn't looking for applause. I just want us to be able to start to move on in a healthy way. Thank you. We're going to move on with our agenda this evening. You are more than welcome to stay and listen to us. Mr. Waffle, did you have something? You're more than welcome to stay to finish, or we can give a moment for everyone to clear out. Next on the agenda is mayor's business. I have none right now. I think I made my business. Councilor comments and liaison reports. Councilor Spoon?
I was not here for the CAP meeting, so I'll have an update. I'm waiting for an update that I'll report at the next one. In terms of CTV5, they had their first producers meeting, and so I often give this request, but if anyone's interested in learning how to use CTV5, film, sound, photography, they're actively looking for volunteers. And then on a more personal level, I want to thank you for saying all of that. You know, we've had a number of conversations. I think we've probably experienced some similar things over the last couple of weeks. I had some similar conversations with my kids. And if there's any way I can help facilitate conversations with you and people that have been hurt, I'm happy to be a partner with you in doing that.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Councilor Varwick.
I was ill last week, and so I wasn't able to make it to the fire board meeting, but there's great stuff going on there. And we haven't had library board since our last meeting, but I will say that I got a sneak peek at the state of the library that they are planning on bringing to the council at the next meeting. And be ready, it's exciting. There's lots of good stuff going on in our library. I was going to mention the cultural pass, and I'll bring that back up again. I know that Ms. Green mentioned it during the proclamation, but again, you can get a pass to go visit lots of different places from your phone. So if you're out and about and you decide you want to go somewhere with your kids, Children's Museum, some of those places, the zoo, log onto the library website and you can download that pass. So that's awesome.
Thank you, sir. Council President Dale.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Canby Utility hasn't met since our last meeting, but yourself and me and the new chair of Canby Utility have interviewed for a board vacancy, and so at our next council meeting, we'll be appointing Dave Horax to fill the seat vacated by the retiring Gary Potter. Kind of a cool victory report, good news report has come up. On March 12th, President Trump signed Senate Bill 47, which officially makes the Upper Moala River a federal wild and scenic river and enjoying that protection. And that part of the river is the origin of our drinking watershed. So a very nice thing. It was already a recreational area, but now it enjoys those additional federal protections. And we would like to pass on our thanks, particularly to Representative Kurt Schrader, who has over the years been very, very persistent in helping to shepherd that through Congress. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Councilor Hensley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have not had any liaison assignment meetings since our last meeting. They're actually upcoming in the next few days. Unfortunately, mostly everybody has left the room, but if they're watching later or still in the overflow room, I just wanted to thank everybody for coming out tonight and engaging in civic discourse. And I want to thank especially the combat veterans that came for their service to our country. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Councilor Parker.
Well, the Adult Center has not met since my last report. Neither has the Bike Committee, but I did want to announce that the free community bike rides are going to be taking place every Tuesday at Bikes and More, and I understand Tim and Deb Dale will be joining us next Tuesday, so look forward to that. On Wednesday of last week, the Clackamas County Fairgrounds held a public meeting to review the master plan. We had 50 people show up, and the part of the master plan that, again, is significant for the city of Canby and for the chamber is a proposed multi-purpose facility, which would add capacity and demand for a hotel. So I'll continue to update you as we move along on that. Monday, the Historic and Landmark Commission held a hearing on a historic building, and it is wonderful that we have a committee that is up and functioning and able to provide that type of service to the city. They have two exciting news items, but I'm going to let them tell them on May 1st when they are here. Yesterday, I attended the Chamber Forum, in which our Economic Development Director and our Economic, help me, Rick, our Economic Tourism
and Economic Development Support Staff Person.
It's our new position, so we're still learning it. But they gave a tremendous update on it, and for the council's purposes, there were only two questions from the audience. One was on what's going on with the Canby Ferry in terms of the city, and the other was what's going on in terms of a hotel. And I think our Economic Development Director Jamie gave a good answer to both. One, that she did not sense that the council felt it had the wherewithal to support the Canby Ferry financially, but supported the concept of it continuing if it's possible, and that the hotel discussions are continuing on. I wasn't going to say anything tonight. As I walked out of the house, I mentioned that to my daughter, and she said, say what's right. So I will. And that is, as a straight white male, I don't think I have a right to tell a person of color or a sexual minority that they should feel safe. They should tell me. And to answer your question, Mayor, you don't know if it's going to get better. It is. When I was 12, a black person could not marry a white person. When I was 20, none of the women on this panel could go into a bank and get a credit card without their husband's signature. When I was 63, two people of the same gender could not get married. The arc of history is long, but it bends towards justice. And I think in 50 years from now, discussions about transgender will be but a small footnote in history, and people will have to try and explain to their grandchildren that such a thing actually took place. I think things are getting better. I was actually encouraged by the discussion tonight. This is a discussion that needs to take place in every community around the country, and we're hitting it earlier than others. And I am hopeful and supportive of your comments, and stand ready to work together, because we do have to figure this out. As Ms. Morris said, we've got a lot of other things to deal with. And I'm not saying that trans people are more important than anybody else, but I am saying that they are as important as anyone else. And when I was at the event on Sunday, it was packed. And I'll leave you with this, that there was a young man in his 20s who had been a graduate of Canby High School. And he had been away from Canby for 10 years. And he said he had been terrified in Canby High School that someone would find out that he was gay, that he did not feel comfortable. And he said after attending the event on Sunday, he wanted me to know that Canby had changed. So it will get better, but it's going to take all of us working, and civility and love and kindness are going to be the lubricant that helps us find some common ground on this.
Thank you, sir. Councilor Hyde.
Thank you. Well said, Greg. I didn't attend any liaison committee meetings for the last few weeks for sure, but thank you for presiding so gracefully over this meeting tonight. And thank you to everybody that came to speak and listen. It was an important night for Canby, so that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Tracy. I will move into the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I move for approval of the minutes of the March 20th, 2019 City Council regular meeting.
Second.
Motion has been made by Council President Dale and seconded by Councilor Hensley to approve the consent agenda, which includes the approval of the minutes of the March 20th, 2019 City Council regular meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 6-0. Moving into resolutions and ordinances. Ms. Schaefer.
You have one ordinance on the agenda, and it's before you for second reading. Ordinance 1505. This is amending Canby Municipal Code, Chapter 3.35, Park Maintenance Programs, Sections 3.35050B and 3.35090E, Annual Adjustment.
Great. Thank you. Mr. Robinson.
Yes, as I shared with you at the last meeting, the Consumer Price Index for the Portland Metropolitan Statistical Area has been discontinued. Staff has recommended to you, and you have agreed, at least in first reading, that an appropriate replacement would be the Consumer Price Index for Pacific Cities, CPIU adjustment, and staff recommendation remains the same.
Great. So this is, as Mr. Robinson said our last meeting, we went over this. Are there any questions or follow-up on that?
Okay. Sounds great.
No, Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt ordinance number 1505, an ordinance amending the Canby Municipal Code, Chapter 3.35, Park Maintenance Program, Sections 3.350, Parent B, and 3.35090, Parent E, annual adjustment.
Motion's been made by Councilor Hensley and seconded by Councilor Barway to approve ordinance 1505, an ordinance amending Canby Municipal Code, Chapter 3.35, Park Maintenance Program, Sections 3.35.050, Parent B, and 3.35.090, Parent E, annual adjustment. Roll call vote.
Counselor Height? Aye. Counselor Parker? Aye. Counselor Hensley?
Aye.
Counselor Dale?
Aye.
Counselor Barwig?
Aye.
Counselor Spoon?
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0. Next on the agenda is under new business is the approval of the city administrator hiring standards, criteria, and policy directives. So those here and at home are been following this. Our city manager has announced that he is going to retire. And so we've begun the process of recruiting for our new city manager. So we have a firm that's been hired, and so we've gone through and come up with job description, and the initial ad is going out, I believe, like this week, is it not?
Yes, once you approve.
Assuming you approve this.
Assuming we approve it. So yeah, we've all provided feedback to our HR director on this, and so I don't think there's any other dialogue or questions on this necessarily.
We had a work session, actually.
Yes, we did. We did have a work session on this as well, and it's very well done. I think the recruiter that we are working with is Peckham and McKinney, and I'm very impressed with what I'm seeing so far, and I'm excited about what candidates that we'll be bringing into our community for us to interview and talk to.
Do we need a motion and vote on
I
this?
do believe we need an actual motion to approve the hiring standards, criteria, and policy directives.
All right, well then, Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the city administrator hiring standards, criteria, and policy directives as presented.
Second.
So the motion has been made by Councilor Hensley and seconded by Councilor Height to approve, for the approval of the city administrator hiring standards, criteria, and policy directives for the recruitment process. Any other discussion or comments?
No, sir.
No? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? It is 6-0. Thank you. Next on the agenda is another opportunity for citizen input. If there's any other citizens that would wish to provide input, I don't have any other yellow cards, so I'm going to say that everyone has said their piece. Action review, Kim.
You've adopted the consent agenda and you've adopted ordinance 1505.
Wonderful. We do have an exec session to go into, so I will take a motion to send us into an exec session under real property.
Mr. Mayor, I move we go into executive session pursuant to ORS 192.660, Parent 2, Parent E, real property.
Second.
Motion's been made by Council President Dale, seconded by Councilor Hensley to go into executive session under ORS 192.660, Parent 2, Parent E, real property. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So before we leave, I just have to say the City Council will now recess this meeting to meet in executive session for the purpose of discussing real property. The executive session is held under pursuant to ORS 192.660, Parent 2, Parent E, which allows the council to meet in executive session to discuss those topics. Only representatives of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. The council will adjourn to the Willow Creek Conference Room to hold its exec session. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed to not to report on any of the deliberations during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. No decision may be made in the executive session. At the end of the session, we may reconvene the meeting in the Willow Creek Conference Room and conduct any further business that needs to be taken care of. Any questions or comments?
Nope.
All right, we are officially in exec session. We'll say goodnight for now, Cammie. Thank you, and see you soon.